Welcome to Brokusatsu, two brothers' exploration of tokusatsu shows and associated media. I'm Harry,
I'm Sam.
and this is episode 0, here to explain to you, and really ourselves, why exactly we're doing this.
Yes, if it sounds like we don't know what we're doing, that's not an act.
As you'll probably learn, most tokusatsu things come from humble origins. You start as civilians, and then suddenly you just get snatched off the street and turned into a cyborg.
Yes, it's good to be comparing ourselves to superheroes right now. Us just two chubby white guys sitting in our bedrooms with microphones attached to our faces.
Aren't those the real heroes?
No, definitively no. Definitely no.
Mostly the villains.
Yeah. We're the people that get, the inspiring speeches spoken to.
We would show up in one episode with a minor problem that the hero would, be kind of confused about for the first episode, and then solve it the second.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, we're nobody in particular. I'm a computer science graduate student. Hopefully, by the time you listen to this, I may have graduated. But fingers crossed.
And I sell food to people who sell food for a living. It's actually a lot more exciting than it sounds.
The wonderful world of sales.
Yes. And we're here to discuss tokusatsu. Harrison, what is tokusatsu? And why are we discussing it? Specifically me, who knows next to nothing about it.
Tokusatsu is a term for a specific genre of mostly Japanese media, although it's inspired lots of similar creations in other countries. What it literally means is special filming or special effects, but it's just kind of usually fantasy or sci-fi shows with pretty obvious special effects. Lots of times people change into big foam or latex costumes and fight monsters. Godzilla is like this. Super Sentai, which inspired the American Power Rangers, is like this. And most specifically, Kamen Rider is like this.
Is it really just like a catch-all term for sci-fi special effects? Any show that has elaborate special effects, is that technically tokusatsu?
It's a term that means something other than what the specific term actually means. It's just like kind of a genre of stuff.
Okay, a genre unto itself.
It's like steampunk, where it's hard to tell exactly what it means, but you can kind of tell when you're looking at it.
Right.
Except
Okay.
there's not always as huge obvious gears on this, although in some series.
There's also a lot less sexy cosplay involved.
You are wrong about that.
Really?
You got no idea.
By the way, it's a good time to mention I am very new to tokusatsu properties. I grew up on Power Rangers. I've seen a Kamen Rider or two when Harrison has tied me down and forced me to watch the episodes. And I generally enjoy them. I have almost no knowledge, so as we go through this podcast and watch properties and talk about things, I will be learning it for the very first time. So I'm going to be the idiot of this podcast, which is a fun place to be.
Yeah, you'll be the goofus. Although in the greater context of society, the one who's seen less Kamen Rider shows is probably the gallant. If I remember correctly, I have shown you all of O's, all of the first season of Vigaro, and then kind of a smattering of other seasons, but I'd never managed to completely finish anything.
Wait, is Garo tokusatsu?
Yeah, it's within it. It's adult tokusatsu, but it's got the same stuff. There's fighting, people transform into the flashy suits. There's special effects. It's just that series has the boobs and the breastises.
You're probably going to want to cut that line.
Sam, do you think that we're going to come out of this with any kind of dignity intact? If so, abandon that thought now.
I guess it just didn't occur to me.
No, yeah. Welcome to hell. As for me, I have been like a much bigger fan of tokusatsu and stuff like that. I was a Power Rangers fan from the beginning. I dropped off sometime around in space when most people seem to. In my early 20s, when I started going to college, long story, I got way back into series, starting with Gokaiger, and then I started watching Kamen Rider O's, and I pretty much kept current with series while delving to old ones. And while I haven't seen all the series, I generally know a good amount of all of them. I kind of know how all the series end in that weird way that people talk about, so I'm spoiled on everything, and I'm very familiar with all the settings and tropes, so I'm kind of the expert, in the sense that I've watched it a lot.
Comparatively, you are an expert.
We're both idiots. We're not writing a textbook here. We're just having some fun and filling some time on the internet. before death takes us into the grave and nothing more matters.
Now, as for the format of the show, we're largely going to be going through TV series. I believe we're planning on doing 2 episodes per podcast episode because these are typically, 22-minute episodes.
Yeah, just as a matter of getting through a bit faster, and also a lot of the Kamen Rider shows kind of seem to have 2-episode arcs. So we'll generally cover 2 episodes. We might stretch that a bit for something. At relevant points, we may watch a movie. Who knows? We'll break it out, but we'll be watching a couple episodes of TV show or a little bit of some amount of media and talking about it here.
Our target for each podcast episode will be somewhere in the neighborhood of 30 to 40 minutes or so. Just going over the episodes covered, asking a few questions, and just generally sounding like idiots.
At least it's the initial plan, but who knows? Looking at the podcast feed right now, assuming that this doesn't end 2 episodes in, you may see that, who knows, maybe it balloons out to like a couple hours per episode and we're crazy people.
It would be amazing to spend like 3-4 times as long discussing an episode as it went on, but then again, I am talking about internet discussion boards, aren't I?
Oh yeah.
Alright, so what is the first property we are going to be diving into?
Well, this is a big decision because it'll probably take, just because Tokusatsu shows generally have very long run times.
It's like 40-ish episodes, right?
They generally run for a whole year. Sometimes it's a little shorter depending if it's a different type of show. Garo only has like 24 episodes, but Kamen Rider, they usually run to like 48, 49. So this is going to be a long commitment, and so I wanted you, Sam, to make an informed choice as far as this.
Oh god.
As part of this choice, you're going to learn a little bit about the eras of Kamen Rider, because that's what we're starting with, Kamen Rider. Kamen Rider started in the late 70s or early 80s. I don't know the exact year. Yeah, I just call myself an expert. But yeah, in general, it was an old thing. And that's what you call the Showa era, the initial Kamen Rider, and then Kamen Rider, like the sequel series, X, Stronger, Amazon, all that stuff. Those are, there's good in those shows, but they're pretty old and a lot more Monster of the Week and just kind of, if we were doing a couple of those every episode, it might become a bit of a grind, and I don't want to scare you off that easy. Okay. And honestly, I've never even seen any of them myself, so I'm not the expert on those.
Is this going to be like one of those times where someone is a big fan of Star Trek The Next Generation and they go back to the original series and they're like, dude, what's going on?
Yeah, no, that's season 1, The Next Generation. Like, there's the odd good episode, but it's rough and they're still finding their feet. And it's also very much going for it's a different thing where it's a lot more direct, kind of fighting Nazis and punching, which is, good, but...
Oh yeah, fighting Nazis is always a good thing.
Yeah.
Is one of the options a series where they fight Nazis?
Well, that's pretty much all of Showa.
Okay.
Like,
we should do that one next.
Yeah, all of the show era is kind of it's basically them fighting Hydra, like a Nazi offshoot that uses very specific fascist imagery, and the main characters are kind of offshoots of their science. It's direct Captain America type stuff.
Wait, that sounds awesome. Why aren't we watching that one first?
Because it's very uneven and kind of long and boring.
Okay.
So that's the show era, and these eras are named after the Japanese emperor anyway. Those series ran for a while, but then they were taken off the air, and then there was a long break, and then they came back in the Heisei era. With the first one that came back is one of the 2 options I'm going to give to you, Kamen Rider Kuga.
Okay.
The creator of Kamen Rider, who you may learn more about, Shotaro Ishinomori, he's considered like he's not the god of manga, he's the guy who worked with the god of manga, and the guy actually got given that title because he was envious of all the praise that was being put on his protege, Shotaro Ishinomori. He's super popular, he did lots of comics, starting with, I don't know what he started with, but he did like Skullman, which led directly into Kamen Rider. So he was very directly influenced in all that, and then he worked super hard in making Kuga what it is. So it's very close to the themes and core kind of ideologies that power Kamen Rider as a show. He unfortunately passed away shortly before it started, but he wrote a lot of notes, and everybody kind of agrees it's the kind of thing he would like. It's good, it's got strong main characters, but it's a bit older, and it's kind of drags in the middle. The special effects are a bit older, the video quality isn't quite as good. I could find subs for it, but it might be a bit of a struggle. In the middle, it's got a little bit less of a driving arc, where it's a little bit soap opera-y. The main character deals with a couple people and their problems, and it just goes on for a while. It's very good, though. It's got a super strong finish, and it's like a classic.
Okay, that is the one that you're trying to get me to pick. What is the one that you're trying to propose to me so I can have the illusion of choice?
Well, actually, that's my secondary choice, because that was the start of Heisei era, and then there were like 9 other shows that went after that, all of which interesting, but there was ups and downs of them. Some of them were good, some of them were Kiva, and then there was Kamen Rider Decade, a big anniversary series that went through time to kind of show back and do little bits of each of them. And Decade was terrible. So the next year they had to work really hard to reboot it, and that was Kamen Rider Double, which was a big, bright, kind of almost pseudo reboot where they started doing things a lot differently. The effects were flashier, the writing got like a snappier, and Kamen Rider Double is just a very well done version of the series. It's got great music. The actors are super popular. Its powers, this is a weird thing to say, but you'll understand as you watch more series. Its powers are some of the most logically constructed of the series, in that when the Kamen Rider uses his upgrades, it actually makes sense, and he doesn't have so many that it just becomes kind of a cavalcade of just little widgets he could put into his belt.
That is what I look for in superhero properties: logical consistency.
And it's just considered by a lot of people a very good entry point. It's what people consider the start of the Neo Heisei. Like, before Double is regular Heisei, after that is Neo Heisei. And actually, we're nearing the end of Neo Heisei for 2 reasons. One, they're doing another anniversary series, it looks like, with Kamen Rider Zeo, who is going to, again, try the time travel thing, hopefully a little bit better than Decade. And also, the Japanese emperors are changing over, so we're going to have a new emperor soon and a new name to put on it. That doesn't actually really matter, but it's just a fun thing to keep track of.
You say it doesn't matter. What if the emperor's like a big Tokugatsu fan?
Or
Tokusatsu.
I mean, it's...
Do not come to us for pronunciation.
Oh, God, no. Yeah, we're gonna get everything wrong.
Literally everything. We'll get main characters' names wrong after we've heard them 100 times in an episode.
Well, that might be down to translation. There was that time when I was showing you O's, depending on the translation. It was Ankh or Anko or stuff like that. Main character names changed.
Why do you say translation? We hear what they're saying on the show.
Yeah, but...
we should be able to mimic it.
But we're reading subs, and your brain interprets things different ways. Also, sometimes subgroups, like, literally, they localize words in ways that make a lot of sense. And sometimes they localize words in ways that don't make a lot of sense. Like, oh god, we'll eventually get into it, but there was a whole deal in Gaim where one character was kind of just was basically a word spelled backwards, and then one of the subgroups kind of just a similar thing with the name and changed it to the reversed version of the American word, and there was a huge goddamn war on the internet over whether or not that was heresy. People have strong opinions about Karate Bugman, Sam.
I see. So, there was option 1, option 2. Both sounded good.
Kamen Rider Kuga or Kamen Rider Double?
Okay. Double or Kuga. Sure, let's go Double. Internet says that's a good entry point, so I agree with the internet 100% of the time.
But yeah, it's a little bit flashier, more modern. It should be easier to get you into, and we can also just do Kuga next. I mean, that'd be a good contrast in the different time eras.
Now let's do some Nazi punching next.
He's kind of punching. It's complicated. But Kamen Rider Double. Sounds good.
Okay.
So that's the main meat of the episode, but for now, because we have... you just heard us decide we haven't watched it yet. But as something to go out on, we're planning to have some questions in the episodes, just things that pop up for us during the episode.
Yes, the unidentified answers section, which Harry assures me is a reference to a Kamen Rider show.
Well, that's a reference. You specifically made me use a reference to Kamen Rider Kuga because you thought that was the one that I wasn't going to use. So this is all... it's already breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
But the unidentified answer for this week is, what do you look for in a superhero property?
I mean, I'm a fan of superheroes, Western, Eastern style. A good superhero show, good superhero property, just like a strong lead, strong main character, identifiable.
Specific to the superhero genre, though, one thing I really like is that a sci-fi show... the difference for me between a sci-fi show and a superhero show is that in a superhero show, modern society is kind of super recognizable. It's something you could see yourself living in. There may be a weird corporation that doesn't exist in real life. There may be some kind of little trinket that isn't real, but you can see yourself living in that universe without much change. And the superhero is kind of a weird heightened exception to the system.
Yeah, I think the tone of a superhero show is very. It's not like one tone is good and other tones are bad, but the tone of the show definitely informs the rest of the series. So if you have like the anti-hero, dark gritty superhero, or if you have like the happy-go-lucky, just the Superman, the pleasant good guy hero, it definitely informs the style of the show to follow and the kind of things that it needs to do in order to remain consistent and remain of the same tone and quality.
Yeah, I mean, you could have super happy or super depressing superhero shows, but for me, the whole fact that it's set in something recognizable means that its themes are a lot closer and a lot more direct than something in where it's sci-fi or fantasy.
Yeah, sci-fi, it's very speculative. It's kind of what we want society to become. How will technology impact us? Whereas a superhero, hey, it's just a good guy doing good things and being inspiring in a very dark and an increasingly dark modern world.
Yeah. Maybe by the time you're hearing this, it won't be super relevant to be talking about heroes who are fighting against growing fascism in their societies and increasing darkness. But for now, we're going to watch Kamen Rider and use that for escapism in a weird way.
Mm-hmm. Yes, any show where Nazis get punched is a good show in my opinion.
The only thing left then is to go on the question for Sam. Are you prepared to ride with the devil?
I have no idea what that means.
You will soon.